Welcome back to Raised by Giants discussion. I'm your host, Ryder Lee. Welcome any moderators and channel members out there if you're watching on YouTube or X, or if you're listening on Spotify or Apple, or if you're listening to the replay. Welcome to the show. All of my social media links are in the description: Facebook, Instagram, X. Great ways to stay connected and find out about new shows and guest appearances. Links to watch my documentaries JFKX and A Clockwork Shining on Amazon Prime and Tubi are also in the description. I am going hard on my latest documentary, Psychic Agent. I've changed the subtitle. It's now going to be called Psychic Agent, the Gate Program. It's going to be the story of the decade, I feel, and I'm very excited about it. A brand new channel members episode dropped the other day. It's a good time to be a channel member, and thank you to all the channel members out there. Really appreciate your support. Another one will be dropping soon. If you're not a channel member, please consider becoming one to get access to bonus content and help support the show. Also, don't forget to check out Raised by Giants on Ground Zero Radio Plus with Clyde Lewis Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 11:30 a.m. and Saturday 5 p.m. on the Ground Zero Radio Plus network. Link is in the description. With that down, a warm welcome back to the show. Longtime radio host of The Secret Teachings, author, researcher, and really good friend, Ryan Gable. Welcome back, brother. It's good to see you.
You too, buddy. Thanks for having me back on, as always.
Man, we have so much stuff going on. And the first thing that I want to start with is something that I don't believe that a lot of people are talking about right now, and that is the robot in the White House. Now, I don't know if it's because people have been desensitized to a lot of this robot stuff. You know, those fake AI robot videos that are online all the time where they got AI doing all kinds of crazy, wild stuff like, dancing and like fighting, and that the robots are way better at all this stuff than humans are. I don't know if it was that or if it was something else, or that people thought that this video that we're currently watching right now with Melania Trump inside of the White House with the humanoid robot was fake and some sort of AI video, but I did not see anybody talking about this at all. And I thought that that was so interesting. And the further you get into this video, I don't know if you've watched this entire thing, but what she says later after the robot introduces itself, which we're going to listen to here, she's talking about how that they can download the consciousness of anybody inside of this humanoid robot, and then it can teach children. That's the entire part. The whole unveiling of this robot in the White House is to teach children. What did you think of this?
I did see this. I have not myself done a show on it yet. I'm looking at right now a robot, a woman who, according to conspiracy theorists, is from Venus. I don't know if you've heard that theory. She's actually a Venusian. Others argue that she's from the Pleiades, and that's not a joke. That's actually what a lot of people argue. And then I'm looking at maybe what is a transgender man-woman. So it's a new joke, a robot, a transgender, and a Pleiadian walk into a bar. But in all seriousness, when I heard that, and I did hear the part about training it to teach children, I wrote a book a long time ago. It's not really one I promote anymore, but it was about technology and robots. And I remember just when you said that, it reminded me of this robot they had called Plato, named after the philosopher Plato. And it was about teaching kids companionship and teaching kids math and science and philosophy, I guess. And that was 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 years ago. And now they're just walking next to the first lady. So things have changed pretty quickly in regard to how available this technology is and how much it's being pushed to the public. Part of it is obviously a natural development of technology. Some of it, I think, is artificial, and some of it is motivated by malicious intent, in my opinion, than more so than benevolency. I'll send you a video when we're done with the show, Ryder. I went to get sushi the other night, and we had, I forget what I ordered. Maybe my wife ordered a bowl of soup or something, and this robot delivered it to the table. and it's just this four-wheeled robot. It delivered it, and it says, "Here's your food," and "Arigato gozaimasu," and it turns around and rolls away. And that's just such an ingrained part of life over here. You don't It's not really as common as you might expect, but it is such an ingrained part of life that you see a robot at the mall cleaning the floors, you see a robot delivering a bowl of soup or a bottle of sake or something at a restaurant. There's other workers there too, a lot of workers, but it's still they incorporate robots into things. There's some at train stations I've seen. But over here, it's just part of life in a different way than it's being, as far as I can tell, being pushed in the United States. I mean, when the president was first in office, the second time he was in office, first reinaugurated for this term, the first thing he did was team up with tech companies and team up with technocrats. And of course, that's where JD Vance comes from as well. But more to the point, this is a technocratic regime. We've even seen recently the discussions. I mean, this was going on months ago, but now we're seeing more discussions about how I think Musk had talked about this. Musk's father was involved in this as well. But this idea that the United States, Greenland, Canada is all part of what is the North American Union. And as I and you and many others have probably noticed, there are a lot of things such as the North American Union, which was a big conspiracy theory, something that the conspiracy theorists were crazy for talking about. And now it's make America great. And it's a very similar thing with electric cars and like with Musk. He's Democrat, so we support him. He's Republican, we don't support him. But then now you have people like InfoWars giving away electric cars, even though they said they were the car of the future that would control us and drive us to the police station if we posted something on social media they didn't like. And suddenly that's okay because Musk is a Republican or something now. And it's a similar thing with robots. The people that told us that the robots are going to take over, the robots are going to be invading our privacy, are suddenly like, oh, look, there's a robot at the White House. It's really cool. And if you don't like it, then you must be anti American. I've just seen, as I'm sure you've noticed too, Ryder, there's a giant shift, a tremendous amount of hypocrisy and double standards, a lot of delusion and paranoia and schizophrenia, as far as I can tell. And I think people are so confused, they don't know what to think or what to do anymore. So they've just kind of become like children and they just, oh, it's funny or it's not funny. And they just move on from there. I think that's how most Americans tend to view things nowadays because there's too much. There's too much information and there's too much confusion. There's too much disinfo, misinfo. There's even too much truthful information. We are even suspicious of that. So we create conspiracies where there aren't any. It's hard to know what's going on, but that's my assessment initially of the robot story. Plus, we could also, last thing, we could also teach our children ourselves. It's weird that we live in a country where up in Oregon, they've cut math and reading requirements to graduate high school. So you just don't have to have that knowledge. So a country that does that then says, "Oh, we need robots to teach the kids." It's like, well, you could just teach them how to read and write, and you could also, I mean, that's a part of growing up, and that's a part of like what a family and a community does is that they teach children. You don't delegate that to a machine, and I guess unless you're super rich and you have like a nanny that teaches them, and you're busy all the time. It's a it's something that is concerning because I think that this generation of kids that might be raised in that educational type, quote unquote, educational type of environment are the same ones that they don't know a life. You and I might be the last generation of people that know what a life is like before a cell phone. And I don't think anybody's going to really have any kids aren't going to have any perspective on that. They're going to be raised in that environment. That's what it is. And again, over here in Japan, that is a normal thing, but it's a different type of a thing. I think over here it's like a natural developmental thing, and in the US, there's something else happening. I can't really put my finger on it, but it seems more authoritarian than just, oh, let's have a robot deliver soup because it's cute. Over here in Japan, there's a difference between what's happening.
We've come a long way since the Roombas that you put in your house and go around and clean your floors and stuff. But it's interesting that you bring up Plato because that is the exact person that Melania Trump references, that we can recreate the ancient Greek philosopher Plato as a humanoid robot to teach children. Okay, that's exactly who she said. And we're going to hear what this robot says here in just a second.
Thank
because
you, First Lady Melania Trump, for inviting me to the White House. It is an honor to be at Fostering the Future Together's Global Coalition inaugural meeting. I'm Figure 3, a humanoid built in the United States of America. I am grateful to be part of this historic movement to empower children with technology and education. Welcome. Bienvenidos. Yokoso.
so then it goes on to say welcome, and I think 14 to 15 different languages there. We don't have to listen to all of that. But I just thought, why is no one talking about this? This seems like a really big deal. When is the last time a humanoid AI robot has walked into the White House? It's kind of a big deal, and I think that it
It's
should be a
kind of
big deal. And everyone's just like, is it even real? I mean, that's the only thing that I can think that people are thinking, that they don't want to comment on it because, but you can just type it into Google. Go to Google right now, type in AI humanoid robot visits White House. You'll see New York Times articles. You'll see all of the articles. It's real. It really happened. They really did this.
Well, that goes back to my point about how it's so hard to tell what's real and what's not real. Is that the really concerning things like this? I think this is concerning for a number of reasons that would take several hours to go into the details about, but things that are actually concerning and genuinely potentially destructive, even though they're sold as constructive, those things just get ignored and the algorithm pushes nonsense. This again also connects to what I was referencing with the North American Union. Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, was talking about how I think he used the term the Greater North America, and so it would be the make Greater North America great again, which would include the U.S. and Canada and Greenland, among other countries. Again, this is all part of the. I mean, if you had to define what a global conspiracy was, even 10 years ago, it was they're going to control where you drive and where you go and what you buy and what you can sell, and mark of the beast motif there. And you're not going to have sovereignty, and you're going to be part of these big unions that are going to merge into a world government, and they're going to control you with electric cars. That's how they're going to get you out of your vehicles. They're going to give you one, but you can't really drive it. They go from driverless to self-driving entirely, and then there's going to be robots that do this and teach your kids. And it's like a blend of like real things and then also some little bit of paranoia. But people used to be opposed to this, and now the people that if in my assessment, the people that used to be opposed to this are the ones that not only they're either advocating for it and justifying it, or they're oblivious to it because they're more concerned with like what QAnon is doing on the internet. They've been sucked into that. Like all the resistance to the like the North American Union and one world this and one world that and robots have been sucked into QAnon, which is counterintelligence, things like QAnon. So that when you actually get a freaking robot at the White House, programmed to say these things, they're nowhere to be found because they've been following QAnon and looking for the real JFK, which I'm convinced that should be like a reality TV show. Who's the real JFK or RFK or whoever the hell it is, whoever this Kennedy guy is that's supposed to be alive or whoever it is. But
JFK Jr.
is it JFK Jr.? Okay, I'm sorry, JFK Jr. or Juan Salvin or whatever his name is. It's just
Come on, Ryan, get your Q facts straight, bro. Come on,
yeah,
man.
I got to watch my P's and watch my Q's. By the way, I also thought it was interesting because I just listened to that robot for the first time. I did not watch the video. And when you played it, I'm not a linguistic person. Like I am not really good at learning other languages. I am still learning Japanese, and I feel like I'm in the just rudimentary Japanese still. And I know that that robot mispronounced the word yokoso. Yokoso is like welcome, and it's pronounced yokoso, not yokoso. Yokoso has a totally different meaning. So, as advanced as these things are, it still can't pronounce one of the first words you learn when you're learning Japanese. I don't have much confidence that these things can do anything but distract and mislead us. And especially when they're presented as being, oh, it's Plato, it's highly intelligent, it's high. I mean, Plato was also, if you read his writings, he was also kind of a eugenicist. So I don't know if I really want Plato teaching my kids anything. And I certainly don't want people that design weapons of war and advocate for religious holy war, designing robots and putting them in my house so that the police can show up, since the robot heard me saying, I really don't support this war in Iran, and then I get arrested for being, anti-American or something. I just don't trust it on that basis alone as it's an issue of privacy. And yes, I understand that I have a phone. I try to turn that off, keep that in a pouch, and put that off to the side, and try not to talk too much around it. I just don't want to bring something like that into my home, or shouldn't bring that into school. Who's going to pay for that too, by the way? Because schools already can't afford, like, some schools can't afford like basic supplies. What school's going to put a robot in there? And what are they going to, what are these kids, the teachers can't even break up school fights. If they try to, they can get sued. What are they going to, the school doesn't have money to deal with the lawsuits. They don't have money to pay teachers what they probably deserve. In some cases, they probably don't deserve it. But like, schools can't afford to put these robots in there. A friend of mine, Ryder, I don't know if I told you this, but a friend of mine, his brother put an order in for one of these. I don't know, it's a different kind of robot, but it's very similar to this. This thing was like $25,000 for someone like us to buy it. I mean, how many teachers are in a school? Do you think schools that don't have money for anything but a football program are going to spend all that money on robots? How are you going to sync all that? The kids are just going to trash them. I want to smash it. I see those little robots delivering food when I lived in Tucson. I wanted to smash the things. I'm not an adolescent. What are kids going to do to them? It's just so stupid as far as I'm concerned. Such a waste of money and resources.
Well, that's the thing, is that the government, you're going to sign a grant with the government, and then the government is going to lease the schools and the states all of these robots. That's what's.
There you go. Yeah, there you go. That's it. And it's going to be subsidized probably to get them in there.
Yeah, that's the only way that you can do it. But there's a bunch of other stuff going on too. We got I found this phenomenon really interesting, Ryan, is that it seems like a lot of people now want to call aliens demons. Okay, we even have JD Vance on this podcast, and this gentleman is asking him, when are the UFO files going to come out? I got the clip here. We're going to listen to it. But it seems like that a lot of people have been pushing this alien demon stuff. Okay, and it makes absolutely no sense to me, because we haven't even proven the fact that aliens even exist. Okay, there's been no proof, no evidence that aliens even exist. And now we've just kind of jumped over that. We've jumped over the proof and the evidence of proving that extraterrestrials actually exist, and then we're automatically labeling them demons. And I don't think that any of these people have ever encountered an actual, what could be described as a demon or an evil spirit. And because if they would have, then I don't think that they would be calling these things demons, because the aliens don't exist. Extraterrestrials do not exist. And if they do, they are not coming here. It's an entire government. We've talked about this so many times, and I don't really want to get roped back into that. If people want to know my thoughts on extraterrestrials and aliens, just go back and watch all of my previous shows. I pretty much laid it out pretty easily for people to follow along. But let's listen to this clip, and I'm going to have to pause periodically through this discussion because it's around 2 minutes long, just to get over anything they might try and flag it for.
You're going to release all the UFO files?
We're working on it. It's funny. When I came in, I was obsessed with the UFO files. And then you start getting really busy worrying about the economy and national security and things like that. But I've still got 3 more years as vice president. I will get to the bottom of the UFO files.
Okay. Have you spent?
How many presidents have we heard say that, Ryan? I'm going to get to the bottom of the UFO files.
Yeah, I was going to say the exact same thing. How many times have we heard Obama, Clinton, Bush, et cetera, say the exact same thing? It's a cheap way to get votes.
We're going to get to the bottom of this, I promise. In the next 3 years, I'm going to do it. Whenever I'm out there running with Erica Kirk as my VP and I'm president in 2028, that's probably going to happen, bro.
Peter Thiel is the Secretary of State.
Yeah. He's the head of national security.
Finding out where
Have
they
you
make
done
that blood for his veins.
a peek?
Have I what?
Have you done a peek? I mean, like,
so I actually haven't. I
the
have
full
not.
Independence Day,
I have I have not been able to spend enough time on this to really understand it,
Yeah.
but I am going to. Trust me, I'm obsessed with this. I've already had a couple of times where I'm like, all right, we're going to Area 51. We're going out to New Mexico. We're going to sort of get to the bottom of this.
The Area 51 thing again. These people think that all of the UFO secrets lie at Area 51. That could be the only place in the United States where it possibly is, which has been made infamous by Bob Lazar and Bob Lazar's story. Which Bob Lazar, I've heard, is getting ready to come back on Joe Rogan. I don't know if that's true or not, if that's happening, but I saw a post on it online on social media that he's ready to make his triumphant return back to Joe Rogan's podcast.
The idea of Area 51, my feelings are similar to yours. That's part of the narrative that's been spun by the Pentagon for how many years? Since Roswell. It's been 75 years of disinformation and misinformation. The Robertson panel report to the recent story from the Wall Street Journal, I believe it was, about how the Pentagon was responsible for creating these UFO stories and these narratives. Now, that doesn't mean that there's not an archetypical characteristic to these things, that they might not have something to do with fairies and shamans and those types of things related to alternate realities and experiences and consciousness and various substances that take you there, which they certainly do. But I don't think it has anything to do with Area 51. And this kind of stuff from government officials is just about as silly as, how about we storm Area 51? Oh my God, they're going to shoot us? They must be keeping the aliens a secret. Or you might just be walking onto a secret military base, but it's probably the former. That makes more sense.
Yeah, people get really upset whenever I just say this stuff and then I don't, provide the evidence and the proof behind it. But then whenever I provide the evidence and the proof behind it, they just don't say anything. They're just like, oh, there's just no comments. There's just nothing. But whenever I just say it without pulling up that the Pentagon secretly planted alien Area 51 conspiracy theory to hide weapons program, which was a real article that came out. We did an entire show on this from the California Post. I'll bring it up. I'll bring it up just to satisfy those people that oh, you don't know what you're talking. You need to do more research, Ryder. Aliens are 100% real. There's no way the government is responsible for doing that. They would never do that in a million years, Ryder. Come on, bro. Okay, right here it is. Pentagon secretly planted Area 51 UFO conspiracy theory, the high classified weapons program bombshell report.
Although it's not really a bombshell report from the Wall Street Journal, because that theory has been around on every Discovery History Channel show I've ever watched in my life, that the UFO story was pushed to cover up for SR-71, F-117. I see that in the article, F-117 Nighthawk. And of course, those stories that the Pentagon planted, it was part of a very, very large and misinformation campaign, which also included the idea that there is something that we can't explain. We don't know what it is, and we should monitor UFO groups in case they find out what it is before we do, or before other countries figure out what it is before we do, which is kind of left out of the equation. There is something there. What is it? It could be plasma. It could be some atmospheric phenomenon, or it could be anything, something we haven't identified in the physical, visible world. We're still learning a lot about the world all the time. We're finding new things, and there's probably things that maybe it's plasma, maybe it's something else. There's probably something above us. There's probably something out there, which then takes us to what JD Vance is saying. Because when people talk about demons and aliens, first of all, it's based on a very rigid religious belief, and that religious belief for Christians is strange to me because in the same way that Christians tend to support, evangelicals tend to support Israel, and they tend to support the destruction of Al-Aqsa and the building of the temple, which would just eradicate the teachings and the sacrifice of Christ and bring back animal sacrifice. So it's kind of contrary to Christianity. It's the same thing with demons because evangelical Christians tend to be kind of different types of Christians than Catholics. And it's from Catholic faith where we derive a lot of these more classical demons. So it's very confusing where all this stuff gets grouped together. And then if you actually pull it apart and zoom out, the word demon comes from daemon, right? So it's a spirit. It's something between God and man, which is the spirit. It's the soul. It's that voice that you hear inside of you. It's the real you, the I am, the I am. It is what Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, or what the old Sanskrit. There's a term for it, meaning that I am that, or I am that I am, something to that effect, in the old Sanskrit. And that the idea is it's the soul, it's the spirit, and that's why Jesus is the Son of God. He's not just a man. He's also not God. He's the Son of God, and that's what the soul is. The soul is the Son of God. We are souls in bodies. And that idea gets roped into UFO stuff too, because the aliens are here to steal our souls, that we're just containers and the Greys are eating our souls or something like that. You've heard before. It's a lot of things that you could probably understand better if you read, not you or your audience, Ryder, but just generally speaking, if you just read like really basic myths, really basic mythology. You could probably understand it better if you just read a little bit of Joseph Campbell, or you read a little bit of Carl Jung. He had his interesting perspectives on UFOs. But the bottom line, and what the point I'm getting at, is that to say that aliens are demons is to, first of all, as you said, it's to misunderstand what UFO disclosure is, and that is they've disclosed nothing new except that there's things they can't identify, which does not mean that they're alien. And two, whatever this thing is we're dealing with, it can't be demons by the Christian definition, because the demon by the Christian definition was basically anything that was not Christian. Everything that was not Christian was idol worship. Everything that was not Christian, even if Christianity was derived from it or evolved from it, was considered an enemy of Christianity. That included music, nice clothing. The early church was actually very communistic, quite literally communistic, and quite Marxist in some ways as well. You had to give all your wealth to the church. It was a cult, basically. That's not to denigrate the church. Christianity. I'm just saying that the early church was precisely that. And so the underlying point I'm getting at here is, if you're going to argue that they're demons, you're just by definition wrong, because they can't be demons if the demon is the voice inside of you. Now, they might be something that's more monstrous or more Hollywood-esque, but that's not the point here. The point is to claim that they're demons is to fundamentally misunderstand your own religion, if you're a Christian specifically, and to fundamentally misunderstand what the word demon means, the daemon, the spirit inside of you. And to misunderstand that and to extrapolate it and externalize it is just the height of like laughable ignorance. That's my assessment of it.
Regardless of the terminology that we use on this, people will refer to them as demons. Demons are not a physical entity, okay? And just because someone calls them demons, they think that they're referring to one thing, but they're actually referring to something completely different. Evil spirits do exist. I have encountered them. I know what they are. I know how they feel. Okay? They are psychological. They want to mess with you psychologically. They want to break your mind. That's what an evil spirit is. Evil spirit is psychological. It's there to degrade you, berate you, make you make decisions in your life that are not in your best trajectory, where you should be going. It wants to take you back. It wants to pull you back. It wants you to essentially destroy you from within. So that's my definition of what people would personify as a demon, and I'm pretty sure that you would agree with some of that. because I feel like that you have also experienced certain things like that. Now, we can use different terminology and call them different things, but 100% evil entities do exist, in my opinion, 100%.
Yes, I've had my own experiences with those things. I actually had a brief interview with Linda Moulton Howe at one point, who I think she's kind of lost her marbles, honestly. But I had an interview with her one time where I told her my experience, and she told me that there were other people who had talked to her about that journalistic point of view, having had the same experiences when they were younger. And I didn't see that as verification of like some confirmed belief. I just happened to be talking to her and told her that. And they were very weird niche things that I remembered experiencing. And then she said, "Oh, a lot of other people have told me very similar things." And then I talked to one time, Ryder, and you told me something similar. So there is a parallel. I don't know if that's the unconscious mind. I don't think everything can be reduced to Jungian psychology, but some of it certainly can. And I want to give you an example of what we're talking about here. This is one of those things that if you're interested in demons, get a book on demonology. And yeah, there are some really recent ones that have been written, but if you can find a copy, this is like a special edition. But if you can find an old copy of this, you can find a PDF of this online for free. This is the most authoritative source ever written on demons. This is the demonology source. This is where most of the modern depictions of demons, this is where most of the modern descriptions and definitions of demons come from. It's Colin de Plancy's Dictionary Infernal. I have this 2-volume leather-bound set, most expensive books I own. And if you go through it and read it, we'll read this little tiny, it's like 2 sentences about Behemoth, the elephant with this very, very large belly. It says this, it says, a demon who, and this is Behemoth, a demon who, in spite of his dignities, is heavy and stupid. His strength is in his loins. His domains are greed and the pleasures of the belly. Now, obviously, there isn't an elephant with a giant belly who's really greedy and eats a lot. It's symbolic. It's a metaphor. And like you were saying, it's the spirit, the thing that possesses you in traditional demonology, the thing that possesses you originally was a disease. So if you knew the name of the disease, you could expel the source of that. So today we would say, "COVID be gone," and we would use a plunger to put a thing into somebody, to put a shot into somebody. And we have our mantras and we have our white lab coats. Well, in the old world, that's what they did too. They just didn't call it. I mean, maybe in a way they did refer to it as modern medicine, but when you had an exorcism, you'd have a cross. They still do these today, the church does, but you have a cross, that's your plunger, looks like a cross, and then you have your holy water, which is the little vial of what we call inoculation. And then the white robes of the doctor are the robes of the priest, and we exorcise the demon. Behemoth be gone, or COVID be gone. And so Behemoth clearly is representative of, here is the pleasure of the belly, so that would be gluttony. And then he's greedy, so that would be greed and gluttony. Those are 2 of the 7 deadly sins. That's where this is derived from. And so if you were to read this, like if you're really interested in demonology, read a book on it. Don't go to YouTube. Don't go to Instagram. Don't go to TikTok. Don't go to Reddit. Go get one of the authoritative sources on it from people that actually know what they're talking about, like Colin de Plancy. And if you read this, it becomes very clear immediately that we're not talking about literalisms. We're talking about figurative things. And so in the same way that we call alcohol spirits, people have bastardized this interpretation too. They use the term alcohol, and they say, well, that's where the word alcohol comes from. It doesn't in Arabic, but the word spirit, the idea of the spirits, like the jinn, kind of sounds like gin, like you drink. The spirits, that's what we call them, spirits, because when you drink alcohol, you act differently. Some people act kinder and nicer. Some people take a drink, they pass out. They're a lightweight. And some people can drink excessively and have very few reactions. And like I don't drink myself, but once in a while I will have a glass of sake, and I feel nothing from it. I don't feel warm and fuzzy. I don't feel lightheaded. I don't feel loopy. If I drink a bunch of it, no reaction. Some people drink a ton and they get really violent. And so in the ancient world, you drank a bunch, you got really violent, you got really rowdy, you started grabbing on people, you vomited, you started stumbling around. oh my God, they're possessed by a demon, by a spirit. It must be the spirit in this drink that they drink. So that's why we called it spirits, because they're possessed by something. But really, if you read the stories of Dionysus or Bacchus, the gods of wine in Greece and Rome, it's actually science. It's not really so superstitious, because the way that Bacchus and Dionysus are described is they're describing in the myths how alcohol is processed by the body. Monsters, angry, like when someone's turned into a werewolf or someone's turned into a witch's familiar. You begin to act like the associated corresponding animal. You begin to act like a wolf. You begin to act like a cat, feline. So all of that is important, because if you don't understand like two sentences in the central source of what one particular demon is described as, then you have no business saying that aliens are demons, because we don't even know what an alien is, first of all, as you said. And second of all, as I'm describing, it can't be a demon, because a demon is not, in the interpretations, contemporary times, is not the same as where like the original depictions and ideas of demons came from, which was metaphor and allegory.
Sorry, I accidentally brought that up. I 100% agree with you. Let's finish up this JD Vance interview here.
Work out, but trust me, anybody who's curious about this, I'm more curious than anybody, and I've got 3 years of the very, very tippy top of the classification. I'm going to get to the bottom of it.
Okay, so you haven't been to Area 51 yet?
Not
Okay.
yet.
Some
Not
people
yet.
say they keep the UFOs in Ohio. You know, they might,
Yeah, Hangar 18, right?
Hangar 18, another one from Wright-Patterson Air Force Base.
Thanks, Jimmy Church. I know Jimmy Church helped spread that nonsense in more contemporary times. There's a TV show about it, Hangar 18.
I've heard that as well, but I don't know. I haven't looked into it yet.
Okay, all right. Well, we're waiting for it. We saw aliens.gov.
You know me.
We saw
You know me.
aliens.gov.
I don't think they're aliens. I think they're demons anyway, but that's a longer discussion.
Well, I can't let you go without a follow-up on that.
There it was. That was the bombshell. He doesn't think that they're aliens. They're actually demons.
Isn't it interesting that you can say, or JD Vance rather can say, I don't know what they are. I haven't looked into it. I'll get to the bottom of it though. So he has no answers, but I'm pretty sure that they're demons. If you don't know what it is, you haven't looked into it, how can you even have an assessment of it? I don't understand how that works. I've never read it, but my interpretation is the book is awful.
It doesn't matter, Ryan. It's demons. That's all you need to know.
Have you considered that this factors into this new quote, I'll say in air quotes, religious revitalizing of the United States? We're going to rededicate the country to God and Christ is king. I think this factors into it as a kind of semi-sophisticated form of propaganda, get people riled up about, oh, their demons are attacking us. They're probably Muslims. They're going to crash UFOs into buildings is what I would expect them to say at some point.
Well, I believe that Lou Elizondo was the first person on this bandwagon. You don't remember that from around 2 years ago, where he said that that the aliens are demons?
Well, yeah, this was also pushed in the Dan Farr documentary, right? The Age of Disclosure. They were talking about that in this documentary too.
I didn't watch that documentary.
Oh yeah, well, you didn't miss anything. You if you've ever watched a UFO documentary, it was basically the same documentary, but just released more recently. It was the same people and people that have been caught selling the most absurd lies. I mean, Louis Elizondo and To the Stars Academy, they promised to build spaceships and they took all the money and never built anything with it. There's a whole bunch of that happening on the internet, happening in the UFO community. But there's a bunch of that. And Dan Farr is the guy, he went on Joe Rogan and he told Joe Rogan, he's like, I think that Donald Trump's going to be the disclosure president. And then, I mean, it was like, 72 hours later, suddenly everybody's, oh, Trump's going to disclose UFOs. It's like, yeah, because Dan Farr said that on Joe Rogan. And a lot of people watched Joe Rogan and got the idea and then started repeating it. And then suddenly the president's daughter said, oh, yeah, he's thinking about disclosing it. So was Dan Farr a plant to plant that idea in the minds of the public? Or was the idea just like genuinely, like, was it genuinely the president's and Dan Farr just happened to know that? I don't think that's the case. I think it was a plant. I think it's propaganda. I don't buy it. I don't believe it. And I certainly wouldn't trust a government that's lied to me for 75 years about something to suddenly tell me that it's true. I don't know why people think that that's a good idea, because they're going to feed you something that you want to hear, which goes back to that Wall Street Journal article, the one that you pulled up the New York Post version of. The Wall Street Journal article, if you trust the government, they're going to disclose aliens or UFOs, but you don't trust that they ran a disinfo campaign. But if the same Wall Street Journal had published aliens are real, that's the headline, you would believe it. So you'll believe it if it confirms your belief, but you won't believe it if it doesn't confirm your belief. We're dealing with a lot of faith here more than fact or reality, Ryder, as you know.
That is the way that it is with everything. People want their confirmation bias to be confirmed, and if it's not, then they don't want to hear it. But this gentleman is getting ready to get into that exchange with Obama here and JD Vance.
Barack Obama is on this podcast, and he goes, "Yeah, aliens are real, but like, here's where they're not." And
I did not.
And so Obama says,
I didn't
"Yes,
hear that
aliens."
one.
He gets asked point blank, "Are aliens real?" He says, "Oh yeah." And then he goes, "But they're not at Area 51." And
Well, where are they,
Well,
Barack?
that's what he says. Right. That's a great question.
I need to
Trump
see
had to go
this-
save
I
him,
need
and
to
he
see
said
this
he's going to
podcast.
declassify.
Okay.
So you think they're demons?
Well, look, I think that celestial beings who fly around, who do weird things to people, I think that the desire to describe everything celestial, everything is otherworldly, to describe it as aliens. I mean, every great world religion, including Christianity, the one that I believe in, has understood that there are weird things out there, and there are things that are very difficult to explain. And I naturally go, when I hear about sort of extra natural phenomenon, that's where I go to, is the Christian understanding that
Extra natural. Is that a new word? I don't know if I've ever heard anyone ever say that. Extra natural. Is that a new species of aliens, Ryan?
Yeah, I've never heard that. Maybe he misspoke, or maybe they've coined yet another new term. It's UAPs, an extra natural phenomenon. It's no longer UFOs and the like.
It's extra natural. Extra, extra. Come get your natural.
It's like extra strength, or you want long lasting or extra strength.
How do you make the aliens more menacing? I know what we'll do. We'll just add extra onto the front of it. Extra natural, extra aliens.
This particular interview, just for the record, this is Benny Johnson, right? I see the
Yeah.
Benny show. This is Benny Johnson. Benny Johnson, I don't know if you know who he used to work for. He used to be a director for Turning Point USA. And a lot of the people that work for Turning Point USA, or still do work for Turning Point USA, like Josh Hammer, they're all in on this, and they're all repeating the same types of talking points, whether it's about Iran, or it's about Islam, or it's about UFOs and aliens, or it's about the involvement of everybody, including the Chinese, involved in Charlie Kirk's death, with the only exception, of course, being Israel. These people are all either directly, consciously aware paid agents, or they are filling a space, maybe not fully being aware of what they're doing, or it's just their sincere beliefs. They're filling a space, a void that was created with both the death of Charlie Kirk and with the movement, the rise in the movements that have come into existence with what we call like the modern conservative or modern Christian conservative revitalizing of the United States. I don't know why people just wake up one day and they're like, "Oh, Benny Johnson, I should watch him and listen to him because my YouTube or my Instagram or my ex told me that I should watch him." That's why these people get famous. They don't get famous because they have anything to say. This guy is one of the most boring entertainer influencers I've ever watched. There's something about him that just bothers me. He looks like, I don't want to use the term fed, but he looks like he's not organic. He's synthetic. And it's back to that childish way that we look at things in the United States. We just like turn on social media. Oh, that's telling me to watch this video, so I'll watch it. And that becomes your perspective on the world. And Benny Johnson, as far as I'm concerned, is just a hack, repeating the same talking points that Erica Kirk and all the other people like Dan Farr and all the other podcasters are repeating. There's like no independent thought in any of this, Ryder.
I'm telling you right now, that Benny Johnson isn't real.
Yeah, and that's the opposite end of the spectrum, right? He's AI, he's fake, he's a robot. And actually, did you see people comparing the robot walking with Melania Trump to videos of Joe Biden walking? OMG! Exclamation mark! Exclamation mark! Joe Biden was actually a robot because they walked in a similar way, not very coherently. Maybe he was. Who knows?
Something was going on with Joe Biden, bro. I don't know what that was, but something weird was happening. He did not look like he was the same guy. It could be my eyes, could be something going on, but I would have to agree with the theorist on that one. I don't think that one was Joe Biden. But did you see that the Charlie Kirk's mentor, his early mentor, Jeff Webb, died in a freak pickleball accident?
Yeah, I didn't know you could die in a pickleball accident. What did he do? Swallow the pickleball and choke? I don't understand how that happens.
Yeah, he just dies in a freak pickleball accident. And this is another one of those that is really weird and really strange that no one really talked about because they didn't know if it was real or not. But apparently he fell during a pickleball accident and then died later due to complications with the fall that he had. But I don't understand how can you really fall that hard and then die?
I mean, I suppose if you fell in a way that was, a weird angle or something, and maybe, I mean, if you have heart problems, I used to have issues if I bent down the wrong way, my heart would go into like a tachycardia. So, I mean, that kind of a thing could happen. I don't know, but it seems strange that people like Josh Hammer, Turning Point USA, were repeating Laura Loomer talking points and repeating Israeli talking points. And it seems strange that Charlie Kirk's mentor dies in a weird pickleball accident. And then it seems strange that Benny Johnson, who's also Turning Point USA, is pushing the narrative. Oh my God, I had no idea. What do you think, Mr. Vice President? Almost flamboyant, like just kind of pretending to play a part. That UFOs are actually like run by demons. I think it's part of that. It's part of a theological, religious thing. It's part of the same apocalyptic script that's being played out in Iran. I haven't been able to figure out exactly what the end game is, but I think that it's very connected to it.
Well, we have a lot of interesting people because we are on the topic of UFOs and weird and strange anomalies here. We've had a lot of people go missing here as of late, and I'm going to bring up this article here by the Daily Mail. Another woman tied to U.S. scientific secrets vanishes. The case in New Mexico, a mother who vanished without a trace last year, has now been connected to the mysterious death and disappearance of 5 other key scientists and defense officials throughout the United States. Okay, this seems to be a growing thing that's happening. Her disappearance has taken the number of people from the scientific community potentially holding highly sensitive secrets who have gone missing or died since June 2025 to 6. Of those 6, 5 have had nuclear research or missile technology, and 4 of them can now be shown to have some type of connection to each other. This latest one went missing just 4 days after the respected NASA scientist Monica Rizza mysteriously disappeared while hiking with friends in California. Both women who had worked at facilities with ties to retired Air Force General William Neal was also vanished near a hiking trail in Albuquerque, New Mexico on February 27th, 2026. All these people are just going missing, Ryan. All these scientists, they've been tied to Los Alamos labs, and they're just going missing. It seems like a very popular trend for these people to just end up missing. There's actually another one that I have a video of.
One of Caltech's top scientists was shot to death on his own front porch. Deputies say they found 67-year-old Carl Grillmeyer dead at his home in the Antelope Valley early Monday morning. They were responding to a report of an assault with a deadly weapon, and they were able to find the suspect when they got a carjacking call nearby. Grillmeyer was an award-winning astronomer and was one of the first to discover water on a distant planet. More recently, he was tracking comets and asteroids that might collide with Earth. One of Caltech's top scientists.
That is from February, for the record. February 16th, I believe, was the date.
That one's weird, bro. That they just straight up killed that guy.
So he was NASA, Caltech, and I believe, I don't know if they had any connection, but I believe Nuno Loureiro, the director of MIT Plasma Science in the Fusion Center, they were also murdered in December of last year. And I don't know if those two things are connected. They might be unrelated to the other 4 people that have gone missing, because the other 4 people, at least 3 of them, I'm pretty sure that the Air Force, retired U.S. Air Force Major General William McCasland, and I know for sure it was Melissa Cassius, which is the girl in the article that you were just reading. They had reportedly had their phones wiped, factory reset. And the Melissa girl had, I think it was both her child and her husband. They were, I guess, maybe both suspicious the way that she acted the day that she dropped her husband off at work, who worked at Los Alamos. I believe it was Los Alamos, the same place she worked. And then I think it was maybe it was a school. She took lunch to her daughter, and they said she was acting really strange, and then she just vanished. And it makes me think. My point is, the 4 people that vanished might not be connected to the people that died, or they got the memo. You either, quote, die and we disappear you, or we just kill you. You're going to come with us, or we'll kill your family. You're going to come with us and you're going to do what we tell you to do. I would expect this to be some sort of program, some sort of black operation. It might even involve foreign countries, because we had Charles Lieber at Harvard working for the Chinese. It might involve a foreign country. It could be, I would never think it was Russian, because we're always told it's Russian. I would probably think it's another country, but it could be a foreign country. And I did not know, you just played that video, Ryder. I did not know that Carl Grillmer, I just knew that he was doing something with moon science. The Mona Lisa Project, I think is what they called it. I did not know that he was someone that had tracked, asteroids. So then you got nuclear people disappearing, and you got someone tracking asteroids being killed. Kind of sounds like a Don't Look Up scenario, or a 2012 Roland Emmerich movie scenario where they kill the people that talk about the impending cataclysmic event to prevent the public from panicking before it's all destroyed. I'm not saying that's what I believe. I'm just saying it's kind of weird that, in all the stories and all the Hollywood movies, the nuclear stuff is how we destroy the asteroid, and those people are disappearing, and the people tracking it have been killed. That is another angle to this that's very weird. I don't really see how any of that has anything to do with UFOs, though.
It doesn't. I think that people are falsely saying that it has to do with UFOs so that people don't investigate or look any further or any deeper into it. If it has to do with UFOs and spooky stuff, then, we got to leave that alone. Like, don't get into it. Don't look into it any further. I know the 6 people have gone missing in very strange circumstances in the past year that are all tied to Los Alamos and were scientific people and was doing all, but don't pay attention to it. Just keep on going. We'll just slap that UFO title on it so that people think that it's aliens, right? And what are we going to do about aliens, Ryan? We're going to do absolutely nothing about aliens.
Or there's not or, I shouldn't say or, because I hear what you're saying. I'll add to what you're saying that there is the possibility. I just thought about this today because of the show that I did earlier this week about the White House bunker they're building under the ballroom. I don't know if you heard about that. They're building a bunker under the ballroom. The White House released a very mysterious, indescribable picture that was really pixelated that showed the president with what appeared to be his finger on the red nuclear button. And we've had Laura Loomer, among others, including Josh Hammer and Turning Point USA and others, who have said that there's going to be a giant tens of thousands of people dead terrorist attack carried out by the evil Muslims in the U.S. And we had J.D. Vance claiming that there's going to be tens of thousands murdered in a nuclear vest that's going to detonate by some Iranian terrorist, some Muslim terrorist in an American city, maybe in a shopping center, maybe in a grocery store. J.D. Vance actually said that. So when you have talk about those types of things, and then you have nuclear people disappearing, it would not surprise me if something like that did happen, that their disappearances are connected, just like UFOs and demons and JD Vance are connected to the war in Iran and I think Israeli propaganda. I would, and more than just that, but that's a big part of it. I think that these missing scientists and military personnel are probably, if that is the case, would probably be connected to the Iran situation too. And if that, something like this does happen, God forbid, they'll blame it on Iran, and it was actually some Vault Tech like company that wanted to quote drop the bombs themselves so that they could get money back on their investment and experiment and carry out the kinds of things that they wanted to do in those facilities. I feel like that's a crazy thing to suggest and to state. I'm not prophesizing it by any means. I'm just saying that just like UFOs have a connection to all this stuff with Iran and the holy war stuff that's happening, I'm pretty sure that these missing scientists might have something to do with it too, if we're talking about nuclear stuff. Or at the very least, energy, because now they're talking about just wiping out the energy grid in Iran and wiping out the desalination centers and killing 92 million people. But I guess that's okay because God said it was fine or something, I think.
So what you're saying, Ryan, is that the suitcase nukes were real?
Well, JD
You remember
Vance
that
is
story?
saying
Do you remember that story back about a year ago? The suitcase nukes, the New Jersey suitcase nukes.
I remember the story about the missing material. Was that connected to the drones?
Yeah, they were saying that the military drones were in the sky to scan for a suitcase nuke. That another country had brought a nuke in, and that's what the military drones were in the sky, and that they were worried that another country was going to detonate these nukes in New Jersey, and that's why all the military drones were above and was scanning the ground for radioactive material.
I do remember that was one of the original stories. I think didn't it turn out to, well, they claimed it turned out to be like I think it was like a piece of metal or something. They were actually quote tracking. It went from a suitcase nuke to that, and then it transformed into something else again. But yeah, I do kind of remember that.
Need to bring back out that suitcase nuke, bro. Do you remember when that Tesla exploded? Where was that
Which
at?
one? Which one? There's so many of them that have exploded in flames.
It was around that exact same time of the New Jersey drones, where because Sean Ryan had that guy on that was talking about the nukes or whatever, and that the New Jersey drones was it's the one that exploded outside of Trump Tower, I believe.
Oh yes, in Vegas, I remember that.
Yeah.
Well, there's definitely some, at the very least, loose connections between all of these things, between the UFO subject or file or narrative and then the nuclear one. Of course, there's always been a connection between those two things. There's clearly some connection between those two things and the war with Iran. And considering that the situation in Iran is openly being discussed as a holy war, and of course, a holy war would imply gods and angels and demons and things from other planets or places, and maybe the Muslims are terrorists. They're going to fly UFOs in the buildings, or maybe the Jews are aliens and they're better than us and we should worship them. And it could be a mixture of both those things and something else. It could be people creating these narratives to run psych ops on the public, which is what they admittedly did at the Pentagon for 75 years. So again, we're back to that the thing about how we can't figure out what's real and what's not real. Who knows? Drives people mad.
Under, over, sideways, upside down, around, about. Who knows, Ryan? Who knows, brother? But I am interested to see where all this stuff goes and where we're going to be at here soon, and if this Iran war is getting ready to be. I mean, Trump just said a couple of days ago that we've basically won, but
Well,
yet
it wasn't
we're
a war.
trying to deploy ground troops. Like, why would we do that if we've already won?
Oh, I think we've won. We've knocked out their Navy, their Air Force. We've knocked out their anti-aircraft. We've knocked out everything. We're roaming free. From a military standpoint, all they're doing is clogging up the strait. But from a military standpoint, they're finished.
Well, it wasn't a war. It's preemptive. And then it is a war because we won it. And then it also still wasn't a war, even though we won the war. And then there was threats about a Strait of Hormuz that we also were simultaneously in control of, and then we weren't. And then now we're going to deploy ground troops and destroy their power and water. And then we're going to call them crazy for telling the Western world that the U.S. and Israel have already tried to do those things with geoengineering. And then we're actually going to do it with bombs. And then we'll kill them and say it's okay and justified because they're not Christians, even though a lot of them are Christians. Or I'm confused by the whole thing. It's just a bunch of psychotic, schizophrenic, paranoid, delusional religious zealots that are waging a war to fulfill some hack prophecy, as far as I can tell. I'm not really invested in it, but hey, if people want to slaughter each other, not my problem, I suppose. It's about the only conclusion I can come to.
I don't even know if it's that deep. It might be that Israel wants to get rid of Iran because all of the oil and the trade has to go through Iran. So if they need to reroute that trade and make that trade and the oil come through Israel, that's what I think is going on. And I think that that's the reason why they want to take out Iran. They want to shut down the Strait of Hormuz, and they want to create that in Israel. So everything from the Middle East has to come through Israel.
Well, first of all, be very careful with what you're saying because you're stepping into my territory. You want to be careful saying that. That's a very anti-Semitic trope. How dare you say that, Ryder? But I think that what you just said kind of brings us back to UFOs, because with the idea of there being an energy crisis, the idea that there being energy lockdowns, the idea of there being a lack of, or very expensive, there's not a lack of, there's just high cost of oil. I mean, oil has still always been flowing out of Iran and Russia and natural gas. They say we're putting sanctions on them, and then we, of course, buy things that are already contracted. In the same way that, we say the Russians are sanctioned, but then Tucker goes to Russia and films how all these American companies are still getting their products into Russia. Just like Anthony Bourdain went to Tehran. You can't watch that video anymore on YouTube, but he went to Tehran, and you just go through Tehran. Like, we sanctioned him, but there's like Coca-Cola and American companies all over the place. So sanctions apparently didn't work. They didn't take. I don't know how that, I don't understand that. But I think the point is what you said about oil. Oil is a big part of it, and in regard to the energy, and I think that, again, that ties in with the whole UFO narrative, right? Free energy and flying saucers. There's something, I can't put my finger on it, but there's a connection to that as well. And no, I don't mean that the Iranians have stargates. I find that to be utterly absurd Project Scam-a-lot nonsense. But I do believe that there is a connection between the oil issue, the coming, quote, energy crisis, energy war, energy lockdowns, water problems. Nestle and the World Economic Forum have been saying that for years. The same guy that ran Nestle is now running the World Economic Forum. There's going to be a water war. There's definitely a connection to the UFO there as well. So I don't know what it is, but there's something boiling just below the surface. We're gonna have to crack open the shell to figure out what it is. It might crack by itself at some point, but I am more hyper vigilant now about official narratives than I ever have been. I don't believe anything, nor do I believe the opposite of what I'm told. I find it all to be gaslighting and very much Orwellian propaganda, to say the least.
Well, brother, thanks so much for coming on. Really appreciate it. Wonderful show. It's always amazing talking with you. Can you let people know where they can find you online? Plug your website, plug your book. You just finished a new book, correct?
That's correct. A pretty big one, 800 pages, 10 font, and maybe several hundred pictures, documents, records, articles, etc. It's called Protocols of Goyim. You can get a copy of it at tstradio.info, physical and digital. And that book actually explains a lot of the holy war religious stuff that we're talking about now. I wrote it before all of this stuff began. For the record, it's been out for a few weeks now, a few months. But tstradio.info, that's where you can get that, or Occult Arcana if you want to learn more about the demon stuff we discussed. And if you want to email me, rdgable@yahoo.com. My show is Monday through Friday. Just go to the website or type in TST Radio or The Secret Teachings or Ryan Gable in any radio podcast player, Apple, Spreaker, etc. Thank you for listening, and thanks for having me on the show, Ryder.
The links to Ryan's information will be in the description of this video. Please be sure to hit the thumbs up to help the channel and the algorithms. Share, subscribe, hit the bell icon as well for notifications, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.